All right, we are already in week 7. Week 6 has come to a close, and I am going to be continuing my weekly rankings for every team. I'm going to be continuing these from the previous week, so it's not just based on last week, it's the whole season on where I see these teams going. If there's something you disagree with, just let me know down in the comments below. And we'll start with the Dolphins, as we usually do, because they have not moved from the starting spot. I'm going to keep them up here. They have a massive game against the Eagles Sunday Night Football. I believe it's Sunday night or it's 4 o'clock. It's one of those two. Eagles will be wearing the Kelly Greens. I will be at that game, so I can't wait for that. Um, that game's going to, I guess, determine a lot. I know it's AFC, NFC, so seeding-wise, it's not going to be a sort of playoff implications, but it's still a big game on the schedule for each team. Dolphins look great. They ended up smoking the Panthers. I know they started that. I think they were down 14-0 to Panthers and ended up winning like 42-21 or something crazy. They look good. I actually think they're going to beat the Eagles. The Eagles secondary is a bunch of players that haven't played before. I mean, they have so many injuries, especially at safety. They're gonna just be throwing out two safeties that can walk. That's pretty much where they're at this point. I'm going to keep the Dolphins Super Bowl contenders, though. They could score any time as fast as they want. They look great so far. 49ers, I know they lost to the Browns. They had a lot of injuries, and I know there's going to be people saying injuries aren't an excuse, except it is. Like, injuries are an excuse, and it's going to happen to every team, but at different parts of the season. I know the Browns had their third-string quarterback in, right? PJ Walker, the Temple legend, was in. But still, like it is an excuse. That's not the 49ers team that we're probably going to see in the playoffs. Also, they weren't going to go 17-0. They were going to lose. Browns have a great defense at home. Brock Purdy had a bad game. I think he had like 80-some passing yards. It was awful. Actually, maybe he had 83 going into the final drive, but they missed a game-winning field goal. They very could have easily made that and won. I still see them as Super Bowl contenders. Same with the Eagles. They lost a bad one to the Jets. Probably Jalen Hurts' worst game. I know it said he had 3 interceptions. 2 of them weren't on him. They like just bounced out of the receiver's hands. Terrible game by the Eagles. Once again, they had a ton of injuries as well. I know the Jets had like 3 corners injured. Eagles still had a lot more injuries. Bad game. I mean, they were up 14-3, and they also didn't run the ball. The Jets are they can't stop the run, and the Eagles just refuse to run it. It was a weird game, bad game. Once again, same as the 49ers, they weren't going to go 17-0. It just doesn't happen in the NFL. We haven't seen that in like 16 years, so I don't really bump them down. This Dolphins game is going to determine a lot for them. It's kind of their first. I don't know. It's a tough. I mean, it's a very well could be the Super Bowl matchup at the end of the year, so I'm excited to see it. The Chiefs, they had a sort of a weird game. It was Thursday night, so people might forget. It was a Thursday night game against the Broncos. I think they won like 18-9 or something. Chiefs defense looks really good. Their offense doesn't seem to be doing too well. I mean, Mahomes doesn't look the greatest right now. I think he still might be the MVP favorite. Chiefs don't look that great. I'm still going to put him as Super Bowl contender. It's still the Chiefs. They still get to feast on the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chargers 6 times out of the year. I think they're going to be a 1 or 2 seed. But I actually think this is pretty good sign. Their defense looks good. If I'm a Chiefs fan, I would rather my defense look really good now instead of my offense and have no defense. I just think they look good. Cowboys, I'm going to keep them here. They just beat the Chargers. The Chargers, I don't think, are a very good team. Cowboys looked all right, and it was on the road, but it was still not really on the road because there's no Chargers fans. But I'm going to keep the Cowboys in playoff teams. Same with the Bills. Bills didn't look good. They barely beat the Tyrod Taylor-led Giants, and the Giants are a terrible team. They honestly should have lost that game. The Giants had 2 goal line possessions where they didn't score a single point from. One before half where they ran the ball on the 1-yard line without kicking a field goal, and then at the end of the game, still won though. Still won the game. Could have been like the Niners Eagles and lost it, but they still won. So I'm gonna keep them here. The Lions. I want to put them in Super Bowl contender, but I don't know. I know they're 5-1. They did beat the Chiefs, but it was without Kelsey and Jones. I'm gonna keep them in playoff teams. I honestly think they could beat the Eagles or Niners right now. because of the injuries these teams have. So I don't know. I'm gonna keep them here, and if they keep going, I'm also gonna bump them up. Seattle actually had a kind of a sad loss to the Bengals. I'm still gonna keep them here. I still think they make the playoffs. They're gonna be a wild card, but they're still gonna make the playoffs. One of the better teams. Just a weird loss. They didn't play very well. Offense didn't look that great. They had a lot of opportunities. Bengals maybe are getting into the groove a little more. I still think Seattle's a playoff team. Same with the Bucks. The Bucks did lose to the Lions. I think it was like 20-6. Their offense just did not look great. I don't think the Bucks are not a Super Bowl contender, but I do think they win the South. I think they're just super average that I don't think they're gonna have any shortcomings. I think they're going to beat the Falcons and the Panthers. I don't think they'll be upset by them. So I think they'll win enough of their winnable games in order to make the playoffs and win the South. But they're nowhere near the level of the Lions, 49ers, Cowboys, and Eagles. But I still think they make the playoffs. Jaguars, I'm going to keep them here. I know it's kind of boring that everybody's staying the same, but all these teams I think are going to make the playoffs. So Jags are going to win the South. They just smoked the Colts. They're the most talented team in the South. They just beat the Bills 2 weeks ago. They look good. I'm going to keep them here. I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders necessarily. But still a playoff team. They're going to win the South. Ravens, I am going to bump them up to playoff team. They just beat the Titans, I believe it was. They actually have a massive game this week against the Lions that I think they could win as long as their defense shows up. I think they'll be able to score enough points. But they look good. I think they're leading the AFC North now that the Steelers had a bye, so they didn't play last week. One team's got to win it. I did pick the Ravens to win it before the season. I just think Lamar's too talented. He's going to win you some games you should have lost. They're dealing with a lot of injuries at the moment and early in the season, but I still think they're the best team in the North. Bengals, I'm going to keep here. I still think they could win the North. They're starting to get sort of their group back, although it was kind of an ugly win against Seattle. Joe Burrow says he's healthy, so I trust him. Everybody knew they were going to start slow. I think 0-3 they were, or 1-2, or 1-3 they started. Whatever it was really ugly losses. But I think they're only going to get better. T. Higgins, I believe, is back. Jamar Chase looks great. I'm going to keep him here. Same with the Saints. They're going to stay here. As long as Derek Carr remains healthy, I think they can stay in here. They can challenge the Bucks. Like, the Bucks aren't that great, so it's not like the Saints can't catch up to them. I don't know. I think the Saints are very average. They have a good defense. I still think they could potentially get into the wild card, but it would be the 7 seed. Chargers, I want to bump down. Also, I'm going to bump them down. I don't think the Chargers are going to make the playoffs, especially in the AFC. You would have to get the wild card, and the wild card is either going to consist of the Dolphins or the Bills, one of those two teams. I'm thinking the North is going to have one. I would trust the Bengals more. I trust the Bengals more than the Chargers. And maybe get the 7 seed, but I just don't think they're going to make it with Staley. Rams, I don't think they make it as well. The Rams are actually quite surprising. I thought they were going to be one of the bottom feeders in the NFC. But their fight, Cooper Kupp just got back, so they're missing him for 4 weeks. He looks good so far. Matt Stafford's looking better. I'm going to bump him down, though. After I just said all that, I just don't think... Actually, somebody has to make the wild card, so I'm going to keep some teams there. But it's going to be tough when you have Seattle and the 49ers. So already, one of these two teams is going to finish ahead of you as the 5 seed. Eagles and Cowboys are going to take the 5 or the 6 seed as well. Somebody from the South, like you're competing with the Saints. Nobody in the North, but it's going to be tough. They're still impressive, though, nonetheless. The Colts, I'm going to bump them down. I don't think the NFC South is going to get a wild card. Anthony Richardson's out for the year. I think before the season, or when Anthony Richardson got hurt, I said they'd win more games than Gardner Minshew. But I don't think they're going to win enough to make the playoffs as a 7 seed, so I think they miss. And the Steelers I'm going to keep here. Like I said, the NFC North, they're just going to beat up on each other. One of these teams can sneak in as a wild card. Kenny Pickett and that offense is going to have to get better. Their defense has been winning them games, their defense is awesome. But I don't think for 17 weeks, I don't think they can do that. Like, you're going to need some offense. They should have lost to the Ravens. That was a really bad loss by the Ravens. Some costly turnovers at the end of the game. I still think they could make the playoffs, though. Texans, I'm going to have them missing the playoffs. CJ Stroud looks great, but like I said, I just don't think the South is going to get a wild card, and they're not going to win the South. Washington, I'm going to keep them missing the playoffs. I'm tempted to put them at mediocre. So that Bears loss, but they just beat the Falcons. They're a competitive team. Every team, I guess, you can have sort of a wishy-washy game. Like, I'll forget about the Bears game because other than that, this team's pretty good, and I'd say potential wild card, but that's kind of keeping them down. So I'm gonna keep an eye on Washington the next couple of weeks to see how they do. Packers, I was keeping them missing the playoffs. I just don't think. I mean, their Packers aren't that good. They're coming off a bye, so you're hoping they're going to win the next game. But they actually got destroyed last time we saw them. I forget, was that against the Lions? I can't remember. But once again, I think the NFC seeding is kind of already set. Like, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams. So they're going to be fighting for that 7th seed. I just don't think they get it. The Browns, I'm going to keep them here. I know they beat the 49ers, but I don't know. I don't think they're going to make it. I don't think the Browns are going to win enough games for the 7th seed. I'm saying that a lot. We are already in week 7, so the playoff picture is already coming into fruition. Without Deshaun, PJ Walker isn't somebody you're going to throw every single week. I would assume Deshaun Watson is going to play next week. Even with him, I don't think the offense is good enough to win. The defense is really good. I will give you credit, Browns fans. That defense is awesome. They did win you that game. But I just don't think it's something you can rely on for 17 weeks. Falcons, I'm moving you down. Desmond Ridder is not very good. I know he won. He looked great against the Texans 2 weeks ago. But other than that, they haven't looked good. You're going to have to get a new quarterback this offseason in the draft or through free agency or trade via however you get him. Drake London's actually looking pretty good. I think he was the first wide receiver taken in 2022. And he looks great. Good for him. Kyle Pitts finally scored maybe his first home touchdown of the year. I can't remember. You got to get him more involved. Bijan obviously looks great. Team's good, I guess, on paper, but they just haven't been playing well. Jets, I'm going to keep them missing playoffs. Yes, you beat the Eagles. You're 3-3 now going into the bye week. I guess your defense can, but same thing I said with the Steelers and the Browns. Your defense is great, but Zach Wilson's still not good. His best thing from that game on Sunday is he didn't turn the ball over. But the Eagles defense does not get a lot of turnovers. Your defense won you that game. I just don't think it's something you can rely on for 17 weeks. But I'm excited to see how they go. I know there's a lot of rumors saying Aaron Rodgers is going to come back in weeks 16, 17. I don't believe that. I'll have to see it with my own eyes first. But I'm going to keep them in missing playoffs. Titans. Actually, not getting them an overall pick. I hate watching the Titans, man. They're so boring to watch. For all those Titan fans, I'm so sorry that is your home team. Titans are the most boring games on television, week in and week out. That Ravens game was unbearable. But they're not as bad as these teams on the bottom. As much as I'll shit on them, I'd rather watch a Chicago game. But I still think the Titans would beat them. Their floor is higher than these teams, but their floor and ceiling are almost touching each other. I feel like they just play average every single week. Couple players I like on that team. I know Spears looks pretty good, but I'm going to keep them here. Vikings, I'm going to keep them here as well. You're not going to make the playoffs. Justin Jefferson's on IR, I believe. I think I saw something that they're not going to trade Kirk. I don't know what they're going to do. Addison looks really good. Just not a very good team. So I'm going to keep them here. The Raiders, I would love to move you down, but I'll just keep them in mediocre. You did beat the Patriots. Good for you. I know Mac Jones had that safety at the end on the last drive. Raiders just aren't very. Who'd they throw out there? Was it Brian Hoyer? Yeah, Brian Hoyer played for them. I missed it. I guess Jimmy got hurt because I'm 99% sure Jimmy Garoppolo started the game. I thought they'd go to O'Donnell, whatever his name is, the rookie. But Brian Hoyer went out there and he won a game against his old team. McDaniels won a game against his old coach. Uh, Not much to say about the Raiders, though. The Cardinals, I'm going to keep them here. I know they lost. I kind of like the Cardinals. They seem to fight. This was a pretty bad loss. I think they lost like 26-9 or something. But they compete, I guess. Josh Dobbs playing a little above his head for the first couple of weeks. And Kyler Murray actually just got activated off of IR. Apparently, he's practicing today. They open up the 21-day window, and I believe he said he practiced today. Guess it's good news for the Cardinals. I mean, it can't be bad. I'm pretty sure Kyler Murray on his worst day is still better than Josh Dobbs. So good for the Cardinals. They're going to have some entertaining football, but they're still going to be here. All these teams remaining here, pretty sure they all lost this week as well. Yes, they all actually did lose this week. Panthers, they will put in the front for number one pick contention just because even though they don't have the number one overall pick, the Bears have that. But all these teams are bad. Giants had a close one with the Bills. You had them on the ropes. Patriots, you're terrible. Denver, I really thought Denver's defense was going to be better than this. Like Russ looks way better than he did last year. I don't know exactly what his touchdown, interception, and completion percentage through 7 weeks this year is compared to last year, but he looks fine. I like Russ. Russ does not look like the reason they're losing these games. And I guess they're competing. They had a close one with the Jets. They should have won. Your defense did hold the Chiefs to only 18 points, but you couldn't score. I don't know. It's the Broncos just aren't good. Bears aren't good. I know Justin Fields got hurt, so I guess he's out. I can't remember who played for them. I think it was a rookie. But all these teams are going for the number one overall pick. So those are going to be my Week 7 rankings going into Week 7. Once again, if there's anything you guys disagree with, just let me know down in the comments below, and I will see you for my Week 7 predictions on Friday.